What's up, brand builders? Stephen Hurahan here at BrandMasterAcademy.com, and in this video you're going to learn how to build powerful brand equity so you can increase the willingness of your audience to not just choose your brand, but to happily pay a premium. Now, if you're a subscriber, welcome back. Great to have you as always. If you're new to the channel and you want actionable brand strategy tips and techniques to grow your business, then hit that subscribe button and the notification bell and you'll be well on your way. Now, if you're not sure what brand equity is, if you haven't come across the term before, you just want a little bit of clarity, then check out my earlier video, What Brand Equity Is. I'll leave a link in the description below and a card above, and that should clear it up for you. But in summary, brand equity is essentially the value we place on the willingness of our audience to either choose our brand or to pay a premium for our brand. So when it comes to branding, brand equity is kind of a big deal. So if you're building a brand for yourself or for your client, you should be doing everything in your power to build strong brand equity. And luckily for you, I just so happen to have a 10-step process that I'm going to share with you. You ready? Step number 1, build visual awareness. Now, your logo and your overall visual identity is often the very first touch point that your audience will have with your brand. And as humans, we're able to remember visuals in as little as 13 milliseconds. So it really is an advantage that your brand has if you have a very unique brand identity. So make sure you leverage that and give your audience something to remember so they're able to easily recall your visual brand. Step number 2, go after your position. Now, there's absolutely no point going into the market and trying to be the same as everybody else or trying to follow the trendsetters and to offer something similar to what they're offering. Your job as a brand builder and as a brand strategist is to clearly define the position that you want to own in the mind of your audience and go after that position. You want to make sure that they understand what it is that you represent so that they can place your brand in the right position in their mind. Step number 3, stand for something. Now, consumers are really switched on today and they're a lot more conscious than they used to be, and they push back from brands that are all about the sale, that are all about the push marketing. So if you can show your audience that you're there for more than just that revenue, then you're going to earn a soft spot in their mind, and that will help them to remember your brand. Step number 4, communicate the value of your difference. Now, too many brands today go into the marketplace and make assumptions. They assume that their audience knows what they're all about. They assume that their audience understands why they're there and why they're different. But if you don't tell your audience clearly why you're there, if you don't tell them clearly why you're different and the value of that difference, they're not going to know. Too many brands assume that their audience knows what they're all about. They assume that they know the value of their difference. So take the time to clearly articulate why you're different and the value of that difference to your audience, and you'll give them a reason to remember you. Step number 5, engage with personality. Now, going back a few years, brand personality was a bit of a nice to have for brands, but today it's an absolute non-negotiable. You cannot go into the market today, whether it's through your social posts or through your website copy, and speak like a corporate entity and sound like an entity that has no real people behind it. You need to go into the marketplace and show that you have characteristics and engage with your audience on a human level. So take the time to understand who your audience is, what characteristics they're attracted to, and make sure you ooze personality going into the marketplace. Step number 6, leverage a unique tone of voice. Now, what you say, as in your messaging, has always been very, very important. It tells your audience what you're all about, but the way you say it, the way you communicate is becoming increasingly different. And if you have a unique tone of voice that you can engage your audience with, coupled with those characteristics from your personality, then your audience is going to feel that you are familiar. It's going to feel like there are people behind that brand and that they're talking to an actual person, not this corporate entity. So really take the time to understand again who your audience is and to clearly define a tone of voice and a language profile that your brand can use consistently. Step number 7, deliver consistent messaging. So I just covered earlier the way you say and the way you deliver your messages is really, really important. But what you say has always been really, really important. Now, there's this idea that your core message for your brand is all you need as a foundation for your brand communication. But really, when you think about it, a core message is a single paragraph. And today there are literally hundreds of touch points that your brand might have with your audience. So you need more than just a core message. You need a set of key messages that you want your audience to understand about your brand. And over time, delivering those consistently is what will shape your audience's perception of your brand. Step number 8, tell stories. Now, over the last 10 to 20 years, neuroscience has uncovered the details about what we've known to be true for literally millions of years, and that is that we as humans love stories. Now, if you're able to tell stories about a journey that represents your audience's journey and a journey that they can relate to, well, then they will resonate with your messaging. They will resonate with that story. If you're able to then weave your brand throughout that story, they will align your brand with the idea of success. Step number 9, be accessible. Now, growing a brand and therefore growing your brand equity is all about building relationships and nurturing those relationships. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen brands grow quite quickly. They get some revenue coming in, they get some sales coming in, and then they put a barrier between themselves and the customers, and they become less accessible. So make sure that you grow organically and you take the time to keep those relationships going, to keep the nurturing going, and be accessible. Be accessible through social media, be accessible on email, and don't put call centers or bots between you and your audience. And step number 10, show up consistently. Building a brand takes time. Building brand equity takes time. It is brick by brick, and every single message, every single social media post, email, it all builds those relationships, and in turn, it influences your audience perception. Over time, that influence of your audience's perception turns into influencing their willingness to buy, their willingness to choose your brand over your competitors, and their willingness to pay a premium. So remember, the brand that you're building is an asset. External companies will look at your business and they'll look at your brand as an asset with actual value. So take the time to build that asset, take the time to nurture that asset, and understand that over time, as it grows, the value of that asset will grow as well. But I'd love to hand it back over to you now. I genuinely love to hear from you about your experience when it comes to building brand equity. Do you have specific processes in place, specific steps in place that you use to consistently build equity for the brands that you build? Are you going to take some or all of these steps into your own brand equity building processes? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. If you have any challenges or questions around building brand equity, let me know in the comments below as well. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell as well. It'll let you know when we've got new videos coming out. If you want more actionable brand strategy tips and techniques like this, head on over to BrandMasterAcademy.com and get yourself signed up for the list. It is free, and I do keep some exclusive content for that list, and there's plenty of resources on there as well if you want to learn how to build brand strategies from scratch. But again, let me know in the comments below, what are your experiences? What are your challenges? I'll do my best to answer all of those. Until next time, brand like a master, and I will see you in the next video.